I've been practicing breathwork for over 20 years, and I thought I had a reasonable model of what different techniques were doing to my brain. Wim Hof breathing or hypoxic breathing, activating. Box breathing, calming, body sensing type of mindfulness like yoga nidra, NSDR or qigong. Restoring. Roughly right, but when I started measuring my brain, I found something I did not expect. Today I'm going to show you the actual data from 4 sessions, what each graph means, and what I changed about my practice because of it. The reason most people quit breathwork and meditation isn't that it doesn't work, it's that there's no evidence it's working while you're doing it. And maybe not even in the first 1 or 2 weeks of practicing it. Or all too often your mind is too noisy to be able to meditate at all. There's no feedback, no immediate sense of progress, no way to know whether that session was doing what you intended or whether the technique you chose was even the right tool for what your nervous system needed in that moment. For most practitioners, this is just accepted. You trust the process.
The sooner you trust the process, the sooner the next step of your life will unveil itself.
You go on with your day, and yes, on a long enough time scale, the progress shows itself. Sometimes, if you don't know what the technique is actually doing inside the nervous system, you can end up using the wrong tool at the wrong time. Activating your brain when you needed to restore it, or trying to calm down with the practice that doing the opposite. I was doing exactly that, and I didn't know it until I had data. This Muse Athena headband measures 2 completely different things at the same time. The first is EEG, electroencephalography, brainwave activity. It tells you what kind of mental state you're in. Delta for deep sleep, theta for deep relaxation, alpha for calm alertness, beta for active thinking. The Muse Athena tracks these in real time, so you can literally watch your brain shift states during each session. The second this headband measures is fNIRS, functional near-infrared spectroscopy. This measures blood oxygenation in the prefrontal cortex, the region of your brain responsible for focus, decision-making, and self-regulation. It tells you how much energy your brain is consuming right now, not just what state it's in, but how hard it's working to be there. This is the graph I kept coming back to. The red line is oxygenated blood. When it rises, the prefrontal cortex is pulling in more energy. When it falls, the brain is shifting into what the research calls a recovery state, becoming more efficient, using less to do more. The blue line is deoxygenated blood. It moves in the opposite direction. When deoxygenated blood rises, it means the brain has consumed oxygen and hasn't yet replaced it. Together, these 2 lines tell you exactly what your brain is doing with energy in real time. For the last couple of weeks, I wore it and tested it through entire breathwork and mindfulness sessions, from the first breath to the last moment of stillness. And what I found across 4 different techniques was not what I expected at all. Let me walk you through the 4 sessions I ran and what the data showed for each. Session 1, Cyclic Sighing. Cyclic sighing, or the physiological sigh, is a double inhale through the nose followed by a long extended exhale. It's one of the simplest breath patterns for rapid nervous system downregulation there is. And according to this Stanford study, it's also the most effective one in reducing stress and improving mood within a time frame of a 5-minute practice during a test period of 30 days. So I put this technique to the test, and here's what the Athena headband showed during a 5-minute session. On the brainwave side, theta dominated from early in the session, with alpha rising progressively, the brain moving steadily toward a relaxed, alert state. But the oxygenation graph is the more interesting story here. The red line, the oxygenated blood in the prefrontal cortex, was rising gently across the session. The blue line, however, the deoxygenated blood, was declining. By minute 4, the trend was very clear. The prefrontal cortex was shifting into a recovery state. Not dramatically, not quickly, but steadily. Like a pressure valve, slowly releasing stress and putting myself into a state of recovery. For a 5-minute session, That's a clean signal and something I can use. Session 2, box breathing. Box breathing is a patternized breathing practice used by Navy SEALs, soldiers, and police corps. You inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, and hold again for 4 seconds. Equal rhythm for each side of your breathing, fully controlled and a rhythmic pattern. The brainwave data showed theta dominant, beta low and stable, alpha steady, calm, sustained, and unremarkable in the best possible sense. But look at the oxygenated graph. The red and blue line are pulsing in almost a perfect rhythm with the breath cycle. This is what coherence looks like when measured directly. Your heart, your breath, and your prefrontal cortex synchronizing in real time. It's one of the cleanest graphs I've seen from any session. And it's not an exceptional wild session. It's just what box breathing consistently produces. Predictable, repeatable, and that's its value. And that's where it's strong. Session 3, hypoxic breathwork or Hormesis breathing. This is where the data gets very interesting. Hormesis breathing is a breath retention practice rooted in Kumbhaka pranayama. The principle is hormesis, a controlled dose of stress that the body and brain adapt to over time, resetting your nervous system. My version I practice is deliberately and slow, and combined with deep mindfulness meditation. What the Athena headband showed confirms the mechanism precisely. On the brainwave side, massive delta spikes during the breath retention phases, the brain responding to the temporary hypoxia, entering a subdued, altered state. Then, recovery during the deep breathing phase. The EEG chart is the most dynamic of all 4 sessions by a significant margin. But the oxygenation graph is the one that tells the real story here. During the breath holds, the red line, oxygenated blood, crashes. Not gradually, not gently, it drops sharply, at points reaching -7 micromolar. Simultaneously, the blue deoxygenated blood line spikes upward. The prefrontal cortex is consuming oxygen and not receiving fresh supply. That's controlled intermittent hypoxia. And then the deep inhale and second hold, the inversion reverses. The red line climbs back up and the cycle repeats. This is not a restoration session of how you know it. This is a controlled challenge session. The brain is being deliberately stressed in short managed bursts and recovering between each round. So that has value, significant value, but it is not the same as calming down. And it belongs in a completely different part of your day, which I will further discuss later in this video. But first, let's go to the next session. Session 4, NSDR and NAP. The final session was a non-sleep deep rest protocol, NSDR, sometimes also referred as Yoga Nidra or body sensing.
Sense the volume, the muscles, the strength, and saturate it.
And in my session, this session actually crossed into actual sleep or a nap. In total, this was the longest session, lasting 40 minutes. The brainwave data over 40 minutes shows a gradual mixing and flattening of all bands. The brain losing the sharp distinction of waking states and settling into something closer to sleep architecture. But look at the oxygenated graph. Over the course of the session, the red line, oxygenated blood flow to the prefrontal cortex, trends steadily downward. Not fluctuating, not recovering, just progressively declining, settling around -4 micromolar. And it stays there. The prefrontal cortex is switching off, not being stressed, not being activated, not being regulated. It's just powering down. Now put that graph next to the Hormesis breathing graph. One spikes and crashes violently in rapid cycles, the other declines slowly and completely. They are almost perfect mirror images. And here's what surprised me. I had been treating Hormesis breathing and NSDR as tools in roughly the same category. Breathwork and rest both serving nervous system health. The data says they're not in the same category. they're at opposite ends of the spectrum. One is deliberately stressing the prefrontal cortex in controlled burst. The other is deliberately deactivating it, using them interchangeably. Or worse, doing Hormesis breathing when you need deep rest is like sprinting when you need to sleep. So knowing this, here's how I've restructured my practice based on this data. The 4 techniques map onto 2 axes: restoration versus activation on one axis and how deep the intervention goes on another dimension. Cyclic Sighing is a fast, light restoration tool, 5 minutes. The oxygenation trend shifts within the first 2 minutes, already showing results. Use it as a midday reset, a quick nervous system check-in, or a primer before box breathing or meditation. It's low effort but delivers a reliable signal. Box breathing is a sustained coherence tool. The rhythmic oscillation in the oxygenation data are what controlled regulation actually looks like. Use it before anything required sustained focus, or before a meditation session where you want to arrive at stillness without fighting your own nervous system. Hormesis breathing is a strength and activation tool. Rooted in Kumbhaka pranayama, the breath retention cycle produces a controlled hormetic effect, a manageable stress signal that builds resilience over time. It belongs in the morning or before demanding physical or cognitive work, not before sleep, not as a wind-down routine. The oxygenation graph tells you exactly why. NSDR, yoga nidra, or certain types of qigong exercises are the deepest restoration tools of the 4. The 40-minute prefrontal shutdown is not something you replicate with 10 minutes of box breathing. It's a different category of recovery. Treat it accordingly. And here's the thing I keep coming back to. None of these required me to change the techniques. I didn't need to learn new practices or abandon anything I've built over 20 years. I just needed to know what I was actually doing with each one. It helped me understand each practice more deeply. There's one more thing I want to mention, because it's the part that actually keeps me coming back. Everything I described so far, the oxygenation graph, the brainwave data, the post-session scores, that's all visible after the session. But what happens during the session is something different entirely. The Muse Athena headband runs a live EEG biofeedback system while you practice. Your brain state is being read continuously and the device translated into a soundscape in real time. Not a fixed soundtrack, a responsive one. When your mind is calm and settled, the environment quiets. And when you hold that state, when the EEG shows you've sustained calm for long enough, you hear bird sounds. What I've noticed, especially when I'm using breathwork to move into a meditation state, is that the audio gives you something to aim for, that you can actually hear. The transition from an active thinking mind into genuine stillness isn't invisible anymore. The soundscape tells you when it's happening. The birds tell you when you are in a sustained calm state. You go from hoping the session is working to hear what is working in real time. And that is actually changing the habit loop completely. You no longer run blind. I look forward to each session now in a way that wasn't always the case. There's something genuinely satisfying about hearing the environment settle and the birds come in, because you know what produces it. Not willpower, not guessing. Your actually brain state is measured and fed back to you in something that feels almost natural. And the data after the session tells you what happened in more detail. The soundscape during the session tells you it's happening now and helps you correct your practice during the session. So it's like a live biofeedback that you can respond to. So both matter to develop your practice. But the live biofeedback one is what makes you come back tomorrow. Muse is kindly sponsoring this video. And the reason I said yes is that I tested the device before I committed to anything. And if you know my channel, you know how rarely I let sponsors on. The Athena is the only consumer wearable that measures both EEG and fNIRS simultaneously. For what I do, breathwork, nervous system training, mindfulness, understanding what's actually happening inside these practices, combining interoceptive awareness with external data. That combination matters to me. So if you want to include the Muse Athena band also in your breathing and mindfulness practice, Muse is kindly offering a 15% discount if you use the link in my description. The discount code is Kitaro at choosemuse.com/Kitaro. Thank you very much, Muse, for sponsoring this video. So here's a simple framework based on what the data showed. For morning activation, do 3 to 4 rounds of Hormesis breathing. The breath retention cycles will change your prefrontal cortex. Give it 5 to 10 minutes of recovery afterwards. Light walking, stillness, a few cycles of cyclic sighing before moving into focused work. For pre-focus or pre-meditation, box breathing is a good choice. 5 to 10 minutes. Or coherence breathing. The rhythmic coherence will show up immediately in the oxygenation data. Move directly into stillness or work from here. Don't let that window close. For a midday reset, cyclic sighing, 3 to 5 minutes. It's fast, reliable, and no equipment required. This reset technique is also great as a short break between deep work sessions if you use the Pomodoro technique, for example, or just as a short break before continuing with your performance or work. For afternoons or evening restoration, NSDR, body sensing type of exercises. I like the 30 to 40 minute version if you have time for it. That declining red line is not something going wrong. That's your prefrontal cortex finally being allowed to rest and recover. After each session, the Enso AI coach will give you a plain language summary of what changed and why, without you requiring to go deep into the graphs and data. It's useful, especially early on when the data feels unfamiliar or overwhelming. So I started this video telling you I found something I didn't expect. And here it is. Hormesis breathing and NSDR, 2 practices I had roughly grouped together on the nervous system work, produce almost opposite responses in the prefrontal cortex. One stresses it repeatedly in controlled bursts, building resilience through hormesis. The other progressively shuts it down, allowing genuine recovery. And cyclic sighing and box breathing are not the same either. One is a fast transition tool, the other builds sustained coherence. Different durations, different responses, different purposes, different graphs. And when you understand the mechanism, you stop using the wrong tool at the wrong time. You start using your practice as a system. And watch this video next if you truly want to create a breathing and mindfulness system that supports your health, nervous system, and well-being. See you in the next one. Bye.